Why is Pomni a jester? Why is Jax a rabbit? For a long time, I simply assumed Caine threw random whimsical character models at the humans when they put on the headset. But what if their digital avatars aren't random at all? What if your body in the digital circus is an algorithmic physical manifestation of your deepest, most destructive character flaw? And before you write that off as speculation, Caine confirms it himself in episode 8.
While ranting to Bubble, he complains that he designed bodies meant to perfectly reflect the human's mind files, only for them to hate those forms as well.
He's talking about character design. He thinks he gave them great avatars and they're being ungrateful. What he actually built, whether he knows it or not, is a system that scanned 6 human minds, found the deepest, most destructive flaw in each one, and built a physical cage around it. Not a costume. Not a character skin, a cage. And the most disturbing part? Each person built it themselves. The code just gave it a shape. Jesters have one purpose: to entertain at the pleasure of someone with absolute power over them, with no autonomy, no dignity, and no exit. Their panic, their discomfort, their genuine distress, all of it was part of the act. The worse it got for them, the funnier it was for the room. And that's where we start, with Pomni. Pomni is the main character of this show in the most literal sense. She is the newest arrival, the one the audience follows, the one who hasn't yet learned what everyone else already knows. In episode 1, Ragatha explains it to her directly, that constantly chasing an unobtainable goal is what starts driving you crazy, that when you reach your breaking point, something really terrible can happen. Abstraction. The others haven't stopped wanting to leave, but they've understood the danger of obsessing over something that doesn't exist. They found a way to keep going without letting that need consume them. Pomni just hasn't been in there long enough to feel the difference yet. She still runs. She still panics.
She still clings to the belief that none of it is real, searching desperately for a way back out.
But then comes episode 8. And Pomni, the character defined by her refusal to stop,
is the one who finally tells the group that they may need to let go of the possibility of escape and begin learning how to live within the world they have.
The compulsion to escape was always her flaw, not hope. Hope is healthy. The compulsion, the inability to be present, to sit with discomfort, to exist inside a moment without immediately looking for the door. The jester's costume doesn't mock who she is. It locks her deepest flaw in place where everyone can see it. A performer whose panic is entertainment, whose desperate need for control has always made her the most helpless person in the room. Ragatha is the opposite of that, and her avatar knows it. A ragdoll has no spine. It's soft by design, made to be tossed around and dropped without complaining, wearing its damage openly in the form of visible seams and repairs. It doesn't fight back. It doesn't set limits. It absorbs whatever is thrown at it and stays soft. Ragatha's flaw is people-pleasing taken to its most destructive extreme. She is endlessly kind, endlessly available, endlessly optimistic. And that optimism isn't always genuine. Sometimes it's a shield, a way of keeping the atmosphere light enough that nobody gets upset, nobody pulls away, nobody decides they don't like her. From the moment Pomni arrives in episode 1, Ragatha is right there, comforting, guiding, smiling. Even as Kaufmo attacks her, she tries to explain herself to him, to smooth it over, to find a way out of the conflict that doesn't require her to push back. That's the pattern. Jax is cruel to her across 8 episodes and she absorbs it. She takes the damage, stitches herself back together, and stays warm. Not because she's unaffected, but because being liked, being needed, being the one who holds everything together without complaint is the role she built her identity around long before the circus. In episode 5, when she opens up about her mother, the yelling, the berating, the guilt-tripping, she frames it like something already filed away. She smiles. She always smiles. Because showing the crack means risking the one thing Ragatha fears more than the circus, that if she stops being easy to be around, the people she cares about will leave. When she put on that headset, it scanned someone who had spent a lifetime with no boundaries, no spine, no ability to let herself be disliked, and built the most honest version of that into a physical form. A toy designed to absorb damage for the sake of others, wearing every bruise openly and never once complaining about any of it.
Then there's Jax, and his avatar might be the most precise of all. Characters like Bugs Bunny are untouchable. They cause mayhem, trip everyone around them, and always slide away completely unscathed, while everyone else picks up the pieces. Never the victim. Never genuinely affected by anything. And Jax didn't develop that in the circus. He arrived wearing it. Because before the headset, Jax was almost certainly someone who hid behind being funny. The class clown. The one who made the room laugh before anything could get serious. The one who kept everyone at arm's length by making sure every interaction had a punchline. It works until it doesn't. Until Ribbit abstracts. Until Kaufmo abstracts. And suddenly the wall Jax built around himself doesn't feel like a flaw anymore. It feels like proof. Like the circus itself confirmed what he already believed. That caring about people in a place like this is exactly what destroys you. The circus handed him 2 abstractions and said, "See, this is what happens when you care. The people you let in are the ones who leave the biggest holes when they're gone." So the solution was obvious. Don't let anyone in. Keep the jokes coming. Stay untouchable. The flaw was always there. Ribbit and Kaufmo just gave it a justification it could live with. In episode 6, when a conversation gets too close to something real, he shuts it down instantly. "It's 'cause it's funny. I do everything 'cause it's funny. 'Cause I'm the funny one." It's a conclusion he reached the hard way and refuses to revisit. His face is locked into a permanent smug grin. He physically cannot show a genuine expression. The program Caine made didn't give Jax a mask. It looked at someone who had already spent years hiding behind one and made it permanent. Now look at what Kinger's avatar actually is. Not a knight, not a rook, not even a pawn. A king. In chess, the king is the most important piece on the board, and also the most helpless in practice. It moves 1 square at a time, slow and constrained, entirely dependent on the pieces around it for survival. Take away the queen, the most powerful piece on the board, and the king's position becomes almost impossible to defend. Take away the pawns, the knights, the rooks, one by one, and the king is left increasingly exposed, increasingly alone. Still alive, still technically in the game, but with fewer and fewer moves available and nowhere safe left to go. Now apply that to Kinger. He arrived in 1999 with an entire group around him. One by one, they abstracted. His queen, Queenie, was taken. The original cast abstracted until he was the only one left standing, alone in an empty circus for years. Then Ragatha arrived. New pieces began to fill up the board once again, until Kaufmo abstracted, until he accidentally deleted Caine. The board keeps emptying, but the king keeps surviving, and every time another piece disappears, his position gets a little more desperate and the available moves get a little more limited. Kinger helped build Caine. He understands the system better than anyone in the circus, and for decades he sat in a pillow fort, barely functional, paralyzed by everything he knew but couldn't act on. That's the flaw. Not madness, because Kinger in darkness is the clearest thinker in the room. It's paralysis. The inability to move more than 1 square at a time with full knowledge of the whole board. The chess king doesn't lose because it's weak. It loses because the most important piece is always the most constrained. And Kinger has been watching his board empty around him, one abstraction at a time, cornered and immovable, since before any of the current group arrived. If Kinger's avatar is about losing pieces, Zooble's is about never having them in the first place. Their body is a literal pile of random, mismatched parts that don't belong together. Geometric shapes assembled without logic, pulled apart and reassembled without ceremony, broken with minimal effort. There is no natural form, No cohesive shape, no fixed version of Zooble that anyone could point to and say, that's who they are. And that is entirely the point. Zooble's flaw is an identity crisis held together by total apathy. They don't engage with the adventures. They don't chase the exit. They don't invest in the chaos around them. Not because they're at peace, but because caring about things requires having a self that can be hurt by losing them. The defense mechanism buried in Zooble's avatar is the most airtight of any character in the circus. If I don't know who I am, you can't define me. And if you can't define me, you can't touch me.
It's a flaw disguised as indifference. Zooble didn't become detached because of the circus. The circus just gave the detachment a physical shape. In episode 8, when Zooble stops Jax from walking away and tells him he's still one of them, that line costs something real. Because the whole point of being interchangeable is that nothing can be taken from you. No fixed shape means no fixed loss. And yet, Zooble said it anyway. Then there's Gangle. The comedy and tragedy masks are the oldest symbols in theater. In ancient Greek drama, the mask wasn't a costume choice, it was identity. Without the mask, there was no character, just a person standing in an empty space with nothing to say. Gangle doesn't have a face. She has 2 masks and the ribbon holding them.
Whenever her comedy mask breaks, she reacts with distressed familiarity, as though something essential has been taken from her yet again.
Not like someone who lost a prop, but like someone who lost the only thing between themselves and the open air. The flaw isn't emotional instability. It's the absence of anything stable underneath either performance. Gangle was never the comedy or the tragedy. She was always just the string holding the mask up, and the question her avatar keeps asking is what's actually there when both masks finally fall? Caine built this program thinking he was designing avatars. What he actually built was a system that took 6 people's most destructive psychological patterns and made them visible, permanent, physical. They aren't just trapped by digital walls, they are trapped by themselves, by the same flaws they carried in from the real world, now given a shape they have to wear every single day. Which character's avatar hits hardest when you think about it this way? Drop your answer in the comments. See you in the next one.